All right, we've been talking about the 40th anniversary of the labor movement in Nigeria, and we spoke with our correspondent on labor earlier, Sharon Jackson. But we're moving ahead now. We have the convener, Joint Action Front, Comrade Abiodun Aremu, joining us from our Abuja studio. Comrade, good morning and happy anniversary.
Good morning to you. I'm the secretary of the... Yeah, we're happy about it. We're excited about it. But for the record, I'm the secretary of Joint Action Front.
Okay, sorry. It's okay. Yeah, secretary, not the convener. Thank you for that, putting things in perspective. Now, so far, 40 years and still counting. What would you see as the highest achievement of the labor movement in Nigeria so far? If I have to, you have to bring that overview to us.
Yeah, the greatest achievement of the labor movement is that the movement is still sustained on this glorious past. Because what you have at Nigerian Labour Congress, that we are celebrating its 40 years, actually is the third of that Congress, which consistently has been at the instance of the Nigerian working people themselves. Because the first NLC was in 1950, the second was in 1975, and the attempt by the government to undermine the independence of workers led to what they call the Decree 22 creations of the Labour Congress in 1978. But actually, the whole thing has to do with the independence of workers. Workers at all points asserting their independence to a union. So when you have a union celebrating its 40 years, because what you know as labor movement is not just representing workers in the trade unions, but it represents the working people and even workers in training when you talk about the students, you see, and the oppressed classes in the country. For an organization, for a movement now celebrating its 40, where with the exceptions of one of the presidents that is late, and that I'm talking about Pascal Bafiahu, the inaugural president and all the other presidents still subsist. And when you have them at that kind of celebrations, it's an exciting thing. More so, you are having a replay of history. Because if you look at the guest speakers yesterday, that's Ataru Jega, was part of the process of the labor movement when he was even the ASU president. You also have one of the past presidents, also chairman in that event. And as you go on almost to the final day, you have also that intellectual backup of labor movement, the ASU, you see, which at a point during the Babangida regime was undermined and exited from the Nigerian Labour Congress. But by today, when you are talking in terms of that celebration, ASU is back into that Congress. I think it's exciting. Yes, there are challenges, but it's exciting to celebrate 40 in the life of a movement that is still standing.
And I'm sure it would be more exciting if by this time next year you're able to look back and say you have achieved what you wanted in the area of minimum wage. How do you take the announcement from the Labour Minister, Chris Ngige, that the new minimum wage would be in place by the third quarter of this year?
Yeah, let me say first and foremost, the reactions of workers was not in that kind of a mood, because you are having a wage that is overdue. You are having a minimum wage that ought to have been reviewed and implemented in the last 2 years. Because the minimum wage is an act of the parliament, it's an act of law. The 2011 minimum wage came through the struggle. As a matter of fact, all wages in this country, with the exceptions of Idoji Award, has been through the struggles of the workers. So it's not a token. You need a public forum for somebody to give. What we have in 2011 current minimum wage was fought for from 2009. And even when it was enacted into law in March 2011, it still takes a lot of struggles and general strike to enforce its implementation, which even some states are still undermining. So you don't talk in terms of a demand, which you ought to have enjoyed long due. So, and that's the point people are saying, that just making an announcement of the last quarter of the year to announce that minimum wage. It's more of an electoral gimmick. When you see what the people are confronting now, you are saying that people should endure more suffering until that part of the time, which is almost 3 months to the presidential election. I don't think workers are excited about that. The point is that workers are struggling for a minimum wage, which as of right and as of law, and legitimately, they deserve it.
All right, comrade, when it comes to the issue of minimum, we know that the NLC is projecting 56,000, and a lot of people from antecedents, a lot of Nigerians feel that at the end of the day, the government might not accept, or it might not be pegged at 56,000, but it might be something at least a little appreciable. Is there a minimum when it comes to the negotiation and final amount, when it comes to the figures? Is there a minimum to which the NLC might accept at the end of the day if 56,000 is not adopted?
Even the 56,000 is not consistent with the reality that we have now. Workers deserve much more. Let's even take it from the point of law. The Constitution makes this point clear in Section 16, that there shall be a national minimum living wage. That is the point. That's what the Constitution says. That is the wage based on the prevailing market rate that takes a worker to live decently. That's the point. Even 56 by today's reality, you see, cannot be said to be the adequate wage for decent living of a worker. So the context of anybody, even at negotiation, yeah, we are open to negotiation. As a matter of fact, negotiation does not mean once you have said 56,000. If the reality in place is such that it has to be reviewed upward, it's not about reviewing backward. Because the point is essentially about offering wages, you see, that undermines not only national productions, but undermines national income and undermines an improvement in the standard of living. Because what it means is that when you have the wage is also used to redistribute inequality in society. A lot of people don't know, because the wage that you have that goes into the larger market of relationship. So when you have wages has a major role beyond just what the workers have got. If a worker collects his or her salary, where is that salary spent? And that is why when laborers are making demand on minimum wage, because there's a way in which wage improvement contributes significantly to the economy. I can give an example. If you look at the wages today, it's the wages by the working people in Nigeria that is sustaining the economy, whether the formal or formal sectors. When you look at the wages of political officers, where are those wages spent? Their children are having educations abroad. They are having health abroad. So invariably, even their tastes in their shelters are made of things that are produced abroad. They are not in any way contributing to that economy, but further undermining it and encouraging capital flight. So when you talk about wages, people should not just see it from the perspective of just what goes into the pocket of an ordinary worker, but for what affects the total economy. That is essentially what the wage improvement is all about. And that is why it is standard all over the world that there shall be a national minimum wage. And you have, even at the level of the ILO, which was the creations of 1918, you see, standardizing the requirement for a national minimum wage. So the whole context are people now as governors, as state actors, trying to undermine that, completely miss the point. Because it's like there are universal standards which must be respected at all times.
All right, let me jump in if you would allow me, Comrade Aremu. How would you react to critics who say the machinery or the wheel of governance in Nigeria has been slowed majorly by the Nigerian worker who has not really given his best to ensure that governance really works, that labor is really the cog in the wheel of progress?
I cannot understand that kind of statement. It's unfortunate is a statement that shows some kind of arrogance. How can you say labor is the clog in the wheel of progress? You see, it's like a statement made yesterday by the Minister of Labor saying that labor is just one of the factors of production. You see, and those are the part of the miseducation. Because the old things that goes on in production is the relationship between labor and capital. And that's what informs the wage. Because what becomes the surplus product in productions are protected by few people as profit. And that is why the wage that is being paid at any point in time is just a token, a fraction of the labor input of an average worker in that. And that is why when you are talking in terms of negotiation for wages, these are things that are put into context. Because you don't reduce labor to a commodity. You see, labor is not commodity. Labor is significant in the production of that work. You can have your capital. Without that labor input, you will not have that. And that's what explains the whole context of exploitations.
Yeah, but are you concerned, Comrade Aremu, are you concerned about efficiency of labor? Are you concerned about that? I mean, over the years, many people grew up, including myself, seeing labor fight for salaries, but we've never really seen labor fight for efficiency in the workforce,
infrastructure.
Yes, and all of that.
No, what is the efficiency? You see, these are the arguments. You see, these are the arguments that inform why people in government, you get it now, loot our country resources. Because when you say efficiency, can we now talk of privatized public assets? Public assets that have been privatized. Where is that efficiency? Do you want to take it in aviation? So efficiency, efficiency is not a factor. You see, that is now being explained from the point of the ability to pay few people and keep the rest unemployed in society. No. Efficiency has to do with democratic management, you see, of the industries, of the works. And I think that is the point. Because when you look, and I can go now to the electricity sector, now you claim PSCN, NEPA were not efficient. They were commercialized. Public assets were given to private individuals as Genco and Discos. Where is that efficiency in that place? So the point is that those assets, those institutions, those industries need to be democratically managed by those who are involved in actual productions. It's not that you now set up a board that reap the profits, that reap the sweat that come from productions. So what I'm saying, when you are talking in terms of efficiency, efficiency is not about an attempt to have an argument to privatize. I can ask you now, the Lagos State Broadcasting Corporations, the Nigerian television stations, are they not working? Have they not existed? But they are undermined when private individual interest in government.
Comrade, we have to leave you here now.
And I think that is the point.
Yes. You see, Comrade, we have to leave you here now. I must thank you so much for giving insight into this discussion now. It's still ongoing, and I know we're going to have you back to talk more about the labor and its achievements after 40 years of existence. We've been talking with Comrade Biodun Aremu, the Secretary of the Joint Action Front. Thank you very much for talking to us now. Thank you.